What's up, everybody? My name is Chris Corvan. I am your host. Welcome back to another episode of Dripping Creativity Podcast. Let me take a step back. So, I was trekking through the wilderness of Canada, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive Sasquatch, when I stumbled upon something even more fascinating. Emerging from the mist, emerging from the forest, I encountered not one, but two legendary cryptids, the St. Louis Pudwidgie.
Oh, my word. Yeah, it's a deep cut right there.
And the Illinois Phantom, Bailey.
Interesting. Okay.
Known in the human realm as the dynamic hosts of the Niche Knowledge and Nonsense podcast, these two have a knack for delving into strange topics, anomalous events, and creepy encounters. Join us as we spend the next little bit chatting with them. Welcome, and starting with Bailey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I am 30 years old. I've been a stay-at-home mom for the last 3 years, but I started writing 2 years ago. I started with poetry, and I also do short horror stories as kind of like my thing to do for myself outside of being a parent. And then I also do roller derby, and I'm very active. I'm interested in like makeup and beauty and skincare and stuff like that. Yeah, and then Ethan and I have been friends for, gosh, it's been over 10 years by now. Like
Bro,
probably
15 years.
Probably, yeah, I believe it. And he and I are always, we've stayed close, and we'd always like text each other like weird random facts. And I was like, we should just start a podcast because I would like to do one, but the way my brain works, I need someone else to hold me accountable and make sure that I'm actually doing stuff. So yeah, that's how that kind of started. So yeah, why don't you go, Ethan?
For sure. My name is Ethan. I'm the co-host of Niche Knowledge and Nonsense. And yeah, I've known Bailey for about 15 years. I think we had the same, most people have had the discussion, they're in these deep cut, strange conversations, and they say, we should start a podcast. How many hours and web recording gigabytes have been devoted to that very discussion? But it has been a lot of fun, and I like to consider myself a full-time rascal. I work in marketing 40 hours a week, but the rest of the time it's a rascal. So I feel like Bailey has a lot of, I would say, an obscure, like scholarly inclination, and from a reactionary perspective, I feel like I just can't take anything too seriously. So I think so far that's been a fun dynamic. And hey, we're 7.5 episodes in, so time will tell.
Yeah.
Well, I have been listening and subscribed. Anybody listening, you demo better go and subscribe. It's only fair.
Well, thank you.
Heck yeah, and it's free.
And completely
And it's
free.
free content. Yep.
And you know what? While you're at it, subscribe to this one too. You're here anyways.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
So let's just kind of dive right in here. We're gonna start with Ethan on this one. We'll get your side, and then we'll get Bailey's side here. What actually kind of merged with the origins of it? Like, how did you finally go, you know what? Let's plan this out and go, this is the structure we're going to do.
Absolutely. I would say within the last year or so, we began having, I want to say, at least like a weekly phone conversation where, we live about 3 hours apart. We're, good at texting, keeping up on social media and everything. But it got to the point, especially with just like strange occurrences and freak phenomena going on, that the phone conversations were getting longer and longer and longer. And we're like, hey, we went from text messages talking about, Mothman like everybody else in America does once or twice a year, to these 30-minute, then hour-long phone conversations and FaceTimes, and the constant at the end of the conversation, this should really be a podcast comment. We realized if we're going to have these discussions where we're going through, Wikipedia rabbit holes and then these bizarre Wix site rabbit holes on top of that, then it's only a tiny little extra step to point a webcam at it, get a little bit bigger of a microphone, and to me it still feels like we're kind of hanging out and comparing those strange ideas. So it didn't start as like a super formal structure. It started from a direction of we're enjoying this conversation anyway, so we just kind of ramped up the formality from there. And I would say we're still working on that, trying to get the quality of every episode a little bit better, but that's kind of our origin and our trajectory with it.
Anything to add to that one, Bailey?
No, I think we decided sometime. I visited Ethan and his wife sometime. Was it October? I think November-ish. And at that point, we kind of were like, we know we want to do this, but we were just waiting on like when we could like get a mic and get everything set up. And then my birthday's in January, and my in-laws actually all surprised me with this really nice microphone, and I was not expecting it, and it was like I was like overwhelmed in the moment because they knew that like I'd been talking about, I want to start a podcast with Ethan, and so that was kind of like the final thing. And my husband is an audio engineer, so he's like our sound guy. Anytime I'm like, why is this not working, because I can't figure it out, he'll set it up. He's always like helping us with sound checks and all that stuff. So yeah, that was awesome.
Can you send him over here?
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit.
Yeah.
Can remote in.
No, just send him right to Canada here. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we'll go right and stay with Bailey here. When it comes to actually creating each episode there, what kind of goes into researching and development and deciding what you guys are going to be talking about?
Yeah, so since we both have like our normal responsibilities, Ethan's working full time, all that stuff, we alternate weeks. So one person is always researching and writing, and then we'll record, and then we'll go. The other person will edit that episode, so then it's not like a huge load for both of us, and it can still be an enjoyable thing to do, because I feel like so many people turn hobbies into a project that maybe becomes something to try to make money off of, and then you kind of start to hate it, and you're like, so that was kind of just like to help us get through that. But as far as choosing topics, we just have like a shared note on, because we both have iPhones, so we just share a note, and we have a note with like a giant list of all the topics we want to cover. I want to say we have like maybe 40 or 50 on there.
At least, yes.
And then a lot of times I don't find out like what the episode is on that Ethan's covering until we start talking about it, because we do kind of want like the blind, genuine reaction from one another when we start to tell each other about stuff. And we kind of like feel like it's more authentic that way. But as far as researching, I always try to find legit news articles for stuff. And then like we just did a cryptids, a 2-part cryptids episode. So I found news reports on that. And then I also kind of wanted to try to like debunk some of the cryptids that we had talked about. And just kind of see things through like a scientific lens, versus just like believe everything that you hear and see and read, because I do think that critical thinking is really important, and I know that it's kind of like the fun sucker of all of the paranormal and cryptid stuff, but yeah, I would say that's how I kind of go about stuff. We spend about a week or two writing, and then we record almost every, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday night. So, yeah. Is there anything else you'd want to add, Ethan?
No, I would say, establishing that organization structure on how you're gathering info, and then again, just staying organized with it. That's been the biggest thing. I mean, there's some episodes where we might be a little bit more collaborative, some episodes where the intention, like Bailey said, really is to go in as, or have the other person go in as blind as possible. But I mean, workflow wise, Riverside has been a really easy recording interface, and organization wise, Google Docs, I mean, they're giving away this stuff, and my word, they got some good assets these days.
Let's kind of go off of something Bailey had mentioned there, Ethan, and that's going with balancing work, life, and podcast. How are you finding that, and kind of, you know, what's your stress level like?
Sure. I am, as of this recording, childless, so I think I have a lot less, you know, 5 p.m. to midnight obligation than Bailey has. So, you know, I've got a little bit less of the workload right there. And I think being in marketing, I know it's only tangentially related to podcast kind of stuff, but I feel like it gives me a little bit of a sift through lots of information quick superpower. So if I'm doing writing or anything, you know, I can say, what do I want? Do I want to research gnomes? Yeah, I want to research gnomes. I'll Google, are gnomes real? I'll find the first person who seems, you know, wild and in the comments on some Reddit post, reach out to them, figure out what do you know, and just kind of roll from there. So I mean, with that, when it's, you know, out here right now, especially in the summer, it was 101 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry everyone. So like there's nothing to do outside. You know, you leave for work early, you get back early, and I'm sitting around. So it's like, hey, might as well write a podcast. I know that's a very, very privileged answer as far as time management goes. So I apologize if I'm, you know, inciting jealousy anywhere.
Take the jealousy, dude. Roll in it.
Yeah.
All of us that have kids and all that, we are so envious. So just roll in that shit.
Enjoy it while it's here.
Bailey, right to you.
Yeah, so I, since I've been a stay-at-home parent, I've also kind of like adopted some of the neighborhood kids, and so I babysit them. So I have like anywhere from like 3 to 4 extra kids at my house almost every day. So that's very loud, and I wish I could close my ears like my eyes, but I'm still here. So I do that during the week, and then I also work at Sephora evenings and weekends. And then I also try to juggle in like derby practice, writing, and I also just joined a newer community group. They don't have like their tax ID yet or anything, so it's like the very beginning stages, but it'll be like a support group for women and children in our area. So once my kids are in school in like August or so, I'll have a lot more time to myself, because my kids are very young, and this will be the first year that they'll both be in school. So that's kind of like my light at the end of the tunnel right now. But I'm glad and thankful that I have a supportive partner, because he does enjoy listening to our podcast, and he enjoys Ethan and I's friendship, and he's just always been supportive of, hey, do you need to work on your episode because it's your week, right? And then I'm like, yeah, I actually do need to. And just to like have that support, it doesn't feel like a burden in that way, to know that I can just take like an hour or 2 hours and just like go to a coffee shop and look up mortuary science as people glance at my computer screen in the coffee shop. So
if they can't handle it, they shouldn't be looking. All right,
that's right. I should probably get one of those like screen
get a bigger monitor. Just get a bigger monitor. Pop it right there.
Are you looking at dead bodies? Yes, I am. Thank you.
Have you seen those like airport like privacy tent kind of things that you like throw over your head and over your laptop? I mean, maybe if you were like, you know, a $5,000 wool suit business person, whatever, I don't know, that looks suspicious as heck anytime you're in the airport tent. I can't get around it.
It does.
Flat out. No, it's like, what are you really watching in there, dude? Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
Come on.
Like,
You can be honest. It's okay. So then
Oh,
let's kind of dive into some more one-on-one style questions here. We left off with Bailey. We're gonna stay right there. Roller derby. Let's talk to me about this. What's happening with that? How long have you been doing it? And have you killed anyone yet?
I haven't killed anyone yet. There's still plenty of time. So the current town that I'm living in, I moved here in 2020, and it was like during COVID, and COVID kind of like, I don't want to say like killed the team, but a lot of members like left because, like everyone was supposed to be quarantining. No one actually died that I know of. But people either haven't returned, or they've moved, or they've gotten pregnant. And so then of course you're not able to practice and stuff, but it kind of like the team really split up during that time. And so they've been trying to rebuild since COVID. And I met a girl named Jamie through a mutual friend. And I knew who she was, and I saw her at a bar one night, and she was like, you need to come do roller derby. And I was like, I have not roller skated in like 10 years, but sure. She's like, just come to a practice. Like it's super chill, whatever. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So we practice once a week on like Sunday mornings. And I started in January, and I've kept at it since then. And I finally got my own pair of skates a couple weeks ago, so now I can actually practice like outside. I take my kids to a local trail, and they ride their scooters, and before I would ride the skateboard, but now I can do my roller skates, so that's a lot of fun. So I'm very inexperienced, but everyone on the team is super willing to teach me stuff, and they're patient and just very helpful. It's been a really nice way to make friends too, which is great, because I feel like when you're an adult, it's like, I don't know why, but it's really difficult to make actual friends who aren't fake AF. Like
legit. The only friends I really have right now, I met on Threads. So
yeah,
yeah,
there's online too. Yeah, but like, yeah, no, I totally get it. So that's kind of the story of roller derby. So since the team is still rebuilding, we've not done any games yet. But it's also, there's still time. We're still building the team and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Record that first one that you guys do.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get knocked out for sure. So
some of the people in these videos I see, they're doing like backflips and landing on their.
Shut up! They are not, Ethan.
I've seen some movies where people do things like put a little like like a rusty nail in the toe of your skate. And try it. It doesn't help you day of, but it gives the other team tetanus. If they
lasers on each skate, and just
exactly.
It's crazy out there, man. It's crazy.
You guys are giving me ideas.
All right, Ethan, we're gonna jump over to you because I've got one question from your form there. What the fuck is normcore?
Oh, absolutely. Normcore is, I would say meeting expectations and blending in. I mean, you'll see I'm wearing a nondescript beige hat, no logo. See, no logo. I'm not lying. I'm wearing a off-brand tagless flannel shirt right here. You can't tell, but I'm wearing a pair of gray shorts on my extremely average physique. So that's kind of what I go right there. I feel like the purpose behind normcore is that if you present yourself as extremely normal and extremely average, and then you say something just like absolutely off the rocker, you can increase the intensity like twofold right there, because they're thinking, I did not expect that person to say that thing. And I mean, there's definitely some alternative style people who have very, very normal takes, and some very normal people with outlandish takes, but it's trying to push that to the extreme.
I have a follow-up question, Ethan, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How many people think you're a serial killer?
Well, shoot. You plead the fifth. Sorry, make another America reference or anything right there.
At least one.
I don't.
I
don't
say at
think
least
so.
one.
At least, I'm riding that line right now, dude.
Possibly two. So 1 to 2, but I mean, I wouldn't be good at it, to be honest. I think I'm too expressive. My arms are a little too noodly. Like, I don't want to stain my beige hat.
Okay, well, see the hat I get. The rest of that, you can work on that. You can work around it, right? I think
Absolutely.
You could be a good serial killer. I believe in you, Ethan.
Maybe, I'm down with the clown, and sometimes when I'm listening to Insane Clown Posse, like, low-key, those guys are making a lot of sense. And, you gotta just ration the exposure to things like that. You don't want too much logic and rationality thrown in your face. And when you have a duo like that, just preaching truth after truth after truth and hit after hit after hit, like, that can get in your head.
So, side tangent here, just interjecting myself here. Back in high school, massive juggalo, like
love it.
It was amazing. Now that being said, fell out for a bit because there's other better music. But my son, he's 19, just went to his first ICP concert the other month with his friend.
No way.
That's amazing.
Well, okay, it was Shaggy. Shaggy was in town, did a concert with a couple people, but yeah, you went.
For sure. I was gonna ask about that. I know Violent J's been kind of in and out of commission with some health concerns and everything, but dude, Shaggy flipping, he sends it. He's all over the continent all the time. I love that. Also, side departure. Sorry. You have a 19-year-old kid. Did you have a kid when you were like 8?
21.
Okay. That's
I'm an old ass man, dude. I'm old.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You need to invest in the company that is selling whatever like sunscreen you're using, because it is like working overtime.
I'll tell you the secret now.
Yeah.
Number 1, I never smile except on camera, so you don't get any wrinkles. Right? It's just
Yep.
at all times. And then 2, I'm half native, so like the native skin really takes over.
That plays a lot into it.
Sure.
Until I'm like 80, and then it's just all gonna just shrink right down.
You'll go from a youthful to wise real quick, and not because you're listening to Insane Clown Posse greatest hits, Malenko on repeat.
Volume 2.
Well, there you go.
Ethan almost got to drive one of them from the airport, right?
Oh yeah, so close. That's one of my fun little hobbies. I'm like on the short call list whenever some low profile celebs want to fly into St. Louis and be carted around, mostly just because I have a tinted car. That's the most important thing. And man, I missed it by literally 5 minutes. I'm in the group chat. Somebody posts like, Violent J just landed in St. Louis, needs chauffeur, 2-hour gig, anyone available? And I was just hopping out of the shower, and I'm like, crap. Yes, available. Missed it literally by like 4 minutes. Biggest disappointment of my life.
So rolling back to the previous one before we get back on track. So nondescript clothing.
Sure.
Tinted windows in a car, and you're not a serial killer.
I'd tell you, but then I'd have to.
You have to what? I'm sorry, you have to what?
I
Don't be.
I can't ruin
You're a
another
guest
day.
on his show, Ethan. You can't be threatening the
That would
host
just be bad manners.
of the show we're on.
I'm not saying I think you are, but I am making notes. Just for later.
You're just saying if anybody goes missing in the St. Louis Metro East area, you might need to talk to some authorities.
Exactly. All right, let's bring this right back on track here. So now we're back to Bailey here. Let's actually kind of jump back into the podcast stuff here before we get into the rapid fires and a couple of questions. How have you been enjoying the entire experience?
Well, I mean, we just we've only got like 7 episodes out, so I'd say it's still pretty early on. But I like it. We've had a lot of support from friends and family. Our I mean, Adam helped us with all the sound stuff. Another friend, his name's Jacob. He's the one who told us about Riverside. And we decided that we really liked it that way, at least for recording video and audio at the same time. And then, which Jacob's actually a podcast editor, and I knew him from college, and I didn't realize that that's what he was doing now. So that was interesting. But like another friend, his name's Eric Safaro. He is a synthwave artist, like a synth artist, and I've just talked to him like online, and we've never met in person or anything. But when Ethan and I knew we were going to do the podcast, I asked him if he'd be willing to make a song for us for like an intro, outro. And I was like, we're willing to pay you, you know, like, I know you're like a chill guy. You're just like, it's just you, all that stuff. Like, I'm willing to support someone who I've interacted with, instead of just try to find something that doesn't have like copyright or something, you know? And he's like, yeah, you can actually just use one of my songs. And we were like, no way. And then another friend, Dustin, just made us like an intro for our videos, just like with our logo and stuff. And I'm like, so I've been blown away from that, like support, because I've always kind of had the attitude of like, if I make stuff and I put it out there, no one's going to listen, no one's going to read it, nobody cares. And it's been the opposite, where it's like, no, people are listening, people are helping us out, like they're being nice about it. We've only had one person leave like weird YouTube comments, but like I feel like that's gonna happen anywhere. So
to be fair, they had some good points.
They did, yeah. So yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty great about it. Come back and ask me that in a year and we'll see. But I feel like since we're doing this for fun, it's kind of kept that, like it's stayed fun. Like we're not trying to make money. We're just two friends making a podcast together, and we just talk about stuff that interests us. So, yeah.
Perfect. I saw the cat appear and disappear. I noticed that one in a couple of the videos. It's always the same look. Cat just kind of looks.
I know. Her name's 11. She's an all black cat. And she's just like, she just stares at you until you pet her, and then if you don't pet her, she leaves.
and what offends me is you didn't pet her.
I know, because if I pet her, then she'll be like, oh, I'll crawl up and lay down on your keyboard there because you're not using that.
I have to pick up my damn cats when they show up because they won't stop, and then they start clawing at the back draw. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm. I saw the cat mug, so you got a good collection going.
Dude, no, it's all about the cats.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, so Ethan, same question to you there.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Bailey is saying. It's been kind of exciting to see that people are actually, I think a lot of people get caught on, the world's kind of negative, things kind of, hitting the fan, whatever, as it goes. But you mentioned earlier, we talked about, making a lot of friends on Threads and, connecting with people digitally, not to go back, the 20 years, you can actually make friends on social media. But it has been amazing to see how many people are actually excited to collaborate. They're not just groaning. Again, Adam, Bailey's husband, he's been a terrific resource because he's he knows what he's doing with audio, so he's helped us out of some really funky pinches because I've got like 12 wires crossing all over the place over here. I don't know what half this stuff does, and he's just like such an honest guy. So like we've actually had a whole episode early on recorded that we were going over some stuff, and he drops into our chat and he's like, hey guys, like I think this is going to be easiest coming from me, but this kind of sounds like crap. He said it in nicer words than that, and from the intention that he already had a plan on how to like optimize and help do that. And from his perspective, if Bailey already put hours into writing and we only put 45 minutes into recording, it's a much better situation to just hop in and do that. So I would say kind of surrendering to other people's expertise has been a big thing, that you don't know it all. Some people might, I sure as heck don't. So I've love to see, again, 90% of all the amazing networking is Bailey. She is like a superstar at just staying connected with people and meeting new people. So that's credit where credit is due.
Thanks, Ethan.
Hey, you're welcome.
Give me a second here.
Take your time.
In here. We covered that. Covered the serial killer. We have a cat back. There we go. All right, podcast goals. Either one of you can kind of start here. What is something you'd kind of like to see in the next year?
I would love to start. I would love to see us still going and having fun in the next year. I think I would love to see us kind of establish a balance between like our podcast like runtime goals and everything. We've been trying to ease it back towards 40 minutes and just really lock down what our 2 week to 2 week outlook is going to be. We've also talked about doing like longer routine episodes and some shorter just kind of reaction type stuff just to keep the feed chugging along more regularly. It's kind of tough to manage time and everything there, but we'll be I think revisiting some of that once Bailey's kids land in school full time. So that'll be some different possibilities right there. But I think my number one goal for the podcast is to raise public awareness for goblins and the existence of real goblin encounters. And that's actually one of the episodes I've been working on for a long time. It's going to be, I always considered that like the episode in my mind. So I'm hoping to have that out within the next couple of months.
Bailey, I'll get to you in 1 second here. I've got to address this. Ethan. What the fuck?
So
Goblins?
I know goblins are not as much of a presence, or as some would say, an issue up north as you get into Canada, really anywhere above Minnesota, but it's increasingly an issue. I think the subterranean nature of some goblin populations, especially the ones that are tunneling in the mountain valleys and then essentially tying in with the longwall mining operations that have been just wreaking havoc with the subterranean environments in the United States, not to mention like the present cave structures that are connecting our two great nations. I think it's got potential to be a problem across the board. And I'll think a problem, another word for a problem is an opportunity, right? And unfortunately, I don't see any opportunity with the goblin situation. I think like this is almost nothing but a threat, and it's a silent killer. It's a negative. And I just don't know. Again, I just want to raise awareness for the goblin situation.
Are you comparing goblins to mosquitoes?
So, I mean, essentially, but like with mosquitoes, you can throw a cap full of bleach in a pool, not in a pond. Please leave the frogs alone, everybody. Contained ecosystem. And it's not so much an issue. You can't just throw tear gas in a cave. I've been arrested numerous times. There aren't the same like solutions to the goblin issue that we have with the mosquito thing, but in spirit, same issue. I mean, of course they don't carry malaria, but not that I know of.
So Bailey, what would you like to see come out of the podcast?
I'm dead. I would love to see Ethan still having that gumption for goblins.
We could have named our podcast that.
Please, God, no.
For goblins.
All the alliteration names rule, okay? Yeah. I'm all about them.
Oh, I see you there.
No, I would love to see a lot more of listener submissions, and going to places that maybe we cover or topics that we cover where it's like really popular there. In the cryptid episode, we talked about going to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is where the Mothman was like sighted and all that stuff. And it's only about 8 hours from where we are, which we could totally do, and we've gone on ghost hunts the last 2 years, and we still have to decide on where we're going this year with our partners and stuff. So I just hope that, you know, there's within the next year that we're still like planning and still excited to do all of this and like meet new people and make, you know, build new relationships and stuff with others there too. So
For sure. I think Bailey, to kind of double up on that, it's a good point. We were doing a lot of just like investigation and everything, like haunted tours and everything, just for kicks, literally, like no publishing, just basically to have, you know, something to talk about. We're just touring these, you know, 200-year-old prisons and, you know, hopping into abandoned houses, old hotels, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we've considered ourselves like an investigation type podcast historically, but that's another thing I think we want to break into. We actually have been talking about us and our spouses going over to the Sally House, which is regarded as one of the most, I think they say the most haunted place in the United States at the very least. And I mean, one of my favorite podcasts of all time, Astonishing Legends with Scott Philbrook and Forrest Burgess. They had such a, you know, visceral experience when they went to stay at the Sally House to film for an episode that it kind of changed the dynamic of their whole podcast. One of the guys said, I can't do ghost stuff anymore. Like, I don't, you know, they've put their episode out, but he basically said, I don't want to talk about this moving forward. So I think that's a pretty good advertisement. And it's only like $200 or $300 to stay there overnight, I think. So
yeah,
we just got to see if we can make it.
Yeah, we should totally do that.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right. You're a serial killer.
See,
My gosh.
no. Moving on. Yeah, no, I think going back to something mentioned earlier there through Ethan, I could probably come up with a couple good collab ideas for short form content for us to work together on. Yeah. And there is a ton of people in the cafe that you are going to meet that are very much all about everything you guys do. So finding people to help in places to go is probably not going to be that difficult because there are a lot of weird people.
So awesome.
Yeah, we love to hear it. I'm looking forward to jumping into that community.
It's big. All right, so now we're 45 minutes in. We are going to do some rapid fire questions here. We're going to start with Bailey on this one. I point like this because you are over on this side of my screen.
That's where I'm at on your screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
so just in case everyone's wondering. Bigfoot or Loch Ness?
Bigfoot.
Ethan?
Loch Ness, hands down.
Ooh, who would win in a fight?
Probably Loch Ness.
We need to get some parameters here. Aquatically speaking, if that's a word, aquatically, Loch Ness, hands down.
Nessie can go on land. Come on.
That's true too. That's true. I mean, true too. I think just the mass. It's like, you know, you don't want to have Sugar Sean O'Malley out there fighting, you know, George Foreman. It just doesn't make sense.
Ethan, do you believe in ghosts?
I want to believe Fox Mulder.
That's aliens. Bailey.
Yes and no. I've had some creepy experiences, but I don't know that I don't know how I really feel about it. But I know that like there's something there. Like I'm not going to be so condescending to say no, that doesn't exist, because I don't actually know. So yes and no.
Yeah, I always say I believe you saw something.
Yep.
Have either of you seen a UFO?
No, I saw the SpaceX and thought it was a UFO, and I took a video and sent it to my local news station, and I was like, I think there was a UFO, and they were like, I think that's SpaceX.
If anybody wants the complete story of that one, it's actually on the latest podcast, or their latest episode. Or no, episode part 1
One of those
yes.
recent ones.
Yep.
No, never saw a UFO. It's just I saw a meteor explode in our atmosphere like pretty low once. It freaked me out. It was huge, but
Yeah.
I identified that via the news.
Oh, did you?
What is the most convincing cryptid theory you've heard so far?
Ooh. I like another kind of middle of the road one, Enfield Horror out here in Illinois. It's kind of a local legend, but it was seen by so many people in such a short amount of time before they would probably have like a chance to like get a bunch of stories kind of in line and collaborate. And it's like old people, young people, whatever. And when you average all of the stories, I think it was real, and it was just a kangaroo out in the night, just like some eccentric person's pet got out of the pen. That's the one I'm going with.
I'm gonna go with the chupacabra being a dog with mange. That was one of the things that we talked about in the latest episode, and we looked up pictures of a specific dog breed that's popular in Mexico, and it matched up almost exactly with some of the pictures in the news articles that I'd found. So I'm gonna go with that.
Excellent. Do you think aliens have visited Earth?
Yes. I am way more into aliens than Ethan is, but I'm kind of like an alien nut, and I know that they'll never beam me up because I want it too bad. So, yeah.
Makes sense. They're gonna go for the nondescript guy.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe. Little do they know, I've been waiting for this moment. I got a +2, like I got a ×2 multiplier bloodlust going on here. I think no, but I think if they are real, then yes. If at any point it is possible that there's other like intelligent life within like a reasonable, light year distance from Earth, then I think the odds of us being the first planet to advance, pretty low, right? It's got to be pretty low. So if it's possible, then yeah.
I'm a firm believer there are aliens and they've never been here.
Oh. Well, sure.
That's a specific theory. Yeah, that it's too many light years away.
I mean, in a so far evidenced infinite universe, they try to calculate how many planets are in the Goldilocks zone. So not saying they're all, four-limbed, one really big head, beautiful apes like us, but I mean, statistically, there's gotta be, right?
We're gonna completely flip it to something completely different here. If you were stuck in the universe of one horror movie, which one do you think you could survive in?
Ooh, that's a pretty tough one right there.
I know. I go hard on this show, man.
Bailey,
you go
you
first,
have to go. Yeah, I was about to say you go first because I don't know. Definitely Jim Varney's Ernest Scared Stupid, because I know for a fact that the troll's weakness is milk, so I've got like an advantage over that I'll go knock on the tree and say, "Yea, I call thee forth, Trantor," and I'll be waiting by with a gallon of whole milk right there. Game over. Bring it on.
I'm only going to accept this because I saw that in theaters and I loved it.
Heck yeah, my guy. Love it.
Oh my gosh.
I used to have one of those giant posters from the movie theater of that, like the cutout.
Yes. That's amazing. That's almost bordering on lost media. So I'm happy to hear that.
For sure. Bailey.
Oh gosh. Okay. I would say, I really enjoyed, The House That Jack Built. That's one of my top favorite horror movies, like current horror movies, and I would like to think that I would be smart enough to get away from a serial killer. I'm looking at you, Ethan.
You're best friends with him. You're doing a pretty bad job at this.
You're gonna be okay. If I have to give a more mainstream answer, I'm gonna be bold right here. Are we allowed to cuss on the show?
I'm pretty sure I've said fuck about 100 times. Yeah.
I will fuck you up, Chucky. I will frick you up. I will cast you in. They try casting you in like wax. I will cast you in metal. You know, I will pick something non-conductive. How about that? You will not get revived by another lightning bolt. I will mess you up, you ginger little fuck.
So he asked me if he can swear, and then he freaks it.
And he says frick. That's Ethan's humor.
I'm gonna dub in this. You know what? I'm gonna dub in this right now. Quiet on set. Quiet on set. Fuck. I'm gonna dub that in.
Please do. Please do. It'll be hilarious.
My God.
Right.
Oh man.
So, do you believe in the supernatural?
Yes.
Definitively.
Well, makes sense. With which mythological creature would you want to be real?
Definitely the Piasa bird. Does that count? Or is that a cryptid?
I'll take it.
Okay.
That's a good one. I mean, probably when I was single, I would have said that flipping like La Llorona or something like that. But I'm just trying to think of the hottest one. But as a married man, I'm not going to say gnomes because I had a whole podcast on this. We basically know they're real. It's not a mythological at this point. Goblins are real. Frick, this is really tough. And if I can't pick a Pokemon, I guess I'm going to say Bigfoot because I just think that we have so much that we could learn from Bigfoot.
So much.
That's deep, yeah.
I can't think of much to learn from Bigfoot.
I mean,
well,
something might happen in the near future and I might need to disappear. So like I can learn about, where to go. And
that's, you know what? Adding that onto the serial killer list and a good point.
My word.
What is your favorite urban legend?
Okay, so this one is actually from my hometown of Hillsboro, Illinois, which Ethan's also from there. But there was this urban legend that there was a woman who somehow murdered her 4 children. They were all buried at the local cemetery, and there was a tree, a very large old oak tree, right that like hung over these 4 tombstones that were very small. But then there was also a tombstone that was made to be a tree trunk, but it was like a chair. And so it had like arms and stuff in it. So the urban legend was if you sit in the chair, you'll be able to see the children up in the tree above you. And so when I was younger, my friends and I would ride our bikes to the cemetery because this is like a town of like 5,000 people, and we've got a movie theater, and that's about it. So we'd ride our bikes around, and one day I did sit in the chair. Of course, I didn't see anything, but I know that it doesn't always, like, just because it's like a coincidence doesn't mean that it's like real. I did get like very feverish that night, and I got really sick, and it only lasted for like 12 hours, and it was after I sat in the chair. So I don't actually know what the name of the urban legend is, but I feel like anybody from our hometown, if you were to say, hey, do you know about the tree stump chair in the cemetery? They'd be like, oh yeah, I know about that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Local ones like that are terrific. I'm sure they're everywhere, but I mean out in the Midwest, and it's not always a lot to do, so we love our urban legends. I hate to do like just like super like mainstream one, but I love just Bloody Mary because through generation to generation, my parents, like my older siblings, me, my younger siblings, like kids now, you can just like, if people are being like intolerable and they're under like the age of like 13, you can be like, have you ever heard about Bloody Mary? And you talk about it, they're like, that's not real. And then they're just, you can they're thinking about it though. And I mean, you can wait for them to, you're like, oh, if it's not real, then try it. And you can line up a prank to go with that. So you can just get a lot of just like old fashioned fun with ones like that. I think anything that opens you up to be able to take ownership of the urban legend with a prank, huge plus.
What I love about both of these is they follow the same general premise of, yeah, I don't believe it, but what if?
Sure.
And that what if will fuck you up.
Yes.
Especially, you know, for like creative people, ADHD brains like myself and all that what if, man, that'll sit with me. Oh no.
Yeah.
So 90% of all my shit that I write comes from. All right. Let's see here. So what is the scariest place you visited? And you can't say that chair in the cemetery. You can't reuse that one.
Oh heavens. So one of, I'm gonna say one of the places we visited together, because I mean I used to everybody, you know, and growing up in the early thousands, it was a golden era of like urban exploration and going places you're not supposed to, and there's some pretty creepy stuff out there. But we went to a place called the Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois. That's where it's at, right? Alton, Illinois.
Yep.
And it is like this super old hotel that's got a ton of ghost stories attached to it. But what's neat about it is it's like built on this hill, so it's got like 4 or 5 levels of basements. Like you just keep going down, and the bottom level is just like dirt and rocks and like super old, like deteriorating wood and like a bunch of just like rusty old-timey stuff, and absolutely no lights. So you're walking around with a flashlight, and it's huge. It's like being like the whole bottom floor, it's just open. It's like being in a parking garage flipping 100 feet underground with just old stuff and no lights in these long concrete corridors. It is super cool and if you're ever out in the Midwest, it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Mine would be actually cemetery not too far from Ethan's parents' house in our hometown. So I was in high school and was working late at night at the movie theater. I had a couple friends who came up and asked me if I'd want to go like see ghosts or like orbs at the cemetery, and I was like, yeah, sure. And like one of the guys was like known to like lie about everything, so I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll go out there. So excuse me, we drive out there, and basically we ended up seeing like these light blue orbs, and they looked like they were flashing, but they were kind of like going in and out of the trees that were around the cemetery, and it is like one of the freakiest things I've ever experienced. I actually wrote the story into another podcast called Believing the Bizarre, and they covered it on one of their listener submission episodes. And so that was really cool, but I haven't really like met or talked to anyone else who's experienced anything like that. Some people said that it could be like will of the wisps, but like if I don't believe in fairies, then it would just be swamp gas, but there's not a swamp around there. So I don't know what it was. Yeah, it was something.
It
was terrifying.
Fantastic answers, and actually answered another question. We got 2 in 1.
Oh yeah.
Nailing this shit. So the penultimate question here. I just love that word.
I've never heard someone use that in real life. I've only read it. So
good job.
Huge applause.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
My dudes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the most difficult, most important question here, we are going to start with Ethan. Where can everyone find you?
Absolutely. You can the best place to find me and get the real scoop is at NKN Pod on Instagram. Again, I think a lot of my social media at this point is sadly private, but I work in college with a bunch of wild like college kids, and I'm like, I don't need all these people following me. But NKN Pod, that is where you're gonna get the true unfiltered normcore experience. You're going to get all the best gnome facts. You're going to get all the best goblin facts. And if you just want the authenticity, that is the best spot.
Yeah. Have to agree with Ethan. That's where it's at. You can Ethan likes to remain unknown to those because he's normcore, I guess. So, but you can find me on Instagram too by going to the uncanny pod Instagram page. My personal account is linked to that. It's bailey.brainvomit. And I came up with that name because I kind of just have like a pinball machine for a brain. And so when I write stuff, I word vomit, I brain vomit. So that's kind of that. So
that's true. That's true. Oh, you know what? You can also find me on TikTok at Garbage Dan. Why not? That's one of my
right. Ethan, go ahead and
aliases from my minion era.
He's got some good TikToks.
And that's not true, but I've got some TikToks.
This isn't part of the list, but how many eras have you had, Ethan?
Eras?
More than Taylor Swift.
More than Taylor Swift, absolutely.
Please.
Yeah, for sure.
Show us out with some of them.
No. I mean, I think right now the present is absolutely the best. I've just learned from every era, every experience has built on itself, and we're working towards something amazing. We're almost to something passable. Once we cross that line, I will make sure to let you know and we can follow up.
Sounds fantastic. And then I think the absolute final thing I need both of you to do right now is just say goodbye to everyone.
All right.
Thanks for
Bye.
listening.
Thanks for
Bye.
listening, everybody. And thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.